Hi, everyone. So this presentation and the work that we're going to outline during the presentation is the first step in the training that we're providing to facilitators looking to be able to take teams through the situation analysis module, one of the modules that we've developed as we've updated conservation by design. And our goal for facilitators is pretty straightforward. We want facilitators to be really confident that you can use the tool, you can take a team through that tool, and through doing so, have them improve or develop a situation analysis. We want you to have that confidence. And the approach that we're going to be testing, we're not sure if this will work, we're going to be trying it with you, is to sort of closely mimic a real life experience. So to sort of put you in the place of getting ready and then actually delivering the situation analysis tool. And we're going to do that, we want to make sure that you experience both the pre-work that we always do before we take a team through the tool, and then actually the tool itself. And so for the latter, we have a 2-workshop series where, using a case study, a mock example, we will actually step you through the mural board version of this tool. And during that workshop, you'll get the chance to play the role of both facilitators, actually try your hand at facilitation, and also get to play the role of participants. So get a sense of what it's like to actually be facilitated and going through the tool itself. What we're not going to try and do in this presentation or in the workshop series is to really dig deep into the facilitator's guide and the other resources that we provide to facilitators. Those resources are a wonderful thing to have access to. They really provide a detailed playbook for how to go through taking a team through a situation analysis module, but we simply can't cover all of that content sort of live, either in this presentation or when we're actually working with you. And that means that we are really placing the onus on you as trainee facilitators to have taken a look at those resources before you come to the workshop. And I'll give a little bit more information about what we mean by that preparation here in just a moment. So what I'm sort of trying to get at here is that your training sort of begins now. So in this presentation, what I'm going to be trying to do as much as possible is give you a sense of what is the work that you'll need to undertake in preparation to actually take a team through using the mural board. There are really sort of two key areas, or two main areas that we prepare for as we're getting ready for that experience. And these are literally the two areas that we've been preparing for as we've taken real teams through the tool itself. So the first is actually being prepared to sort of, deploy the tool in general, knowing what the steps are, being ready for those steps, having everything sort of to hand that you're going to need as you go through the mural experience. It is really important that you have done that preparation beforehand. It really doesn't work if you get into the virtual room with a team. It really doesn't work to be trying to read the facilitator's guide. That kind of depth of information, it's very difficult to sort of ask the participants to wait 10 minutes while you read a detailed description. So you need to have done that preparation work beforehand so that when you're sitting down with a team, it feels like a very seamless, a very sort of natural experience. The other area of preparation is knowing enough about the specific strategy that the team is looking to develop or improve that you can support them in that journey. We are not asking facilitators to be subject matter experts. In fact, we specifically designed the tool so that isn't needed. But it does mean that there is an expectation that our facilitators have done the necessary preparation, that they understand the basics of the work that the team is looking to undertake, looking to improve. So let me dig a little bit deeper now. And again, this is sort of really trying to reflect this. What kind of preparation do we do as we think about sort of delivering the tool itself? And in this point, I'm really focused on the mural version of the tool. Although that preparation is very similar if you're taking the team through using the tool in a real real life experience, not in a virtual setting, but actually in a face-to-face setting. The preparation is very similar. So the first thing that we do, and I literally do this every time I take a team through the situation analysis tool, is I read the facilitator's guide, or I reread it in my case because I've read it before. And I read it, with an eye towards okay, I'm getting ready to facilitate a team. What do I need to remember? What do I need to have sort of at my fingertips? And that includes things like looking at, what are some of the common challenges that teams encounter during each step of the process, each part of each step that we have in the mural board. Remembering what those challenges are, some of the solutions to those challenges can really help set us up for success. And we're able there to capture learning from taking hundreds of TNC staff now through the situation analysis tool. So that is a really rich resource to be able to pull from. we get a little bit deeper, and I remind myself of, well, what are each of the steps and the parts of those steps that we're going to be going through. How does the products that the team develops in one step, how do those kind of build through? What are the examples that we're going to be sharing with the team? How long do we have for each of those steps? Those are the kinds of things that we're preparing. I practiced introducing each step. I literally pretend that I'm sort of sitting there and I've got a team in front of me, and I practice that wording. That wording really matters. We've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that as we're teeing up a step or a part of a step, that we provide clear instructions, and that those instructions help to address some of the common challenges that we've seen teams encounter in earlier versions of this tool. So the wording really matters. It's designed to help you as a facilitator be successful and to help the team be successful as well. And then the last thing is I make sure that any pre-work, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, any pre-work that we've needed to undertake is ready to go. That it's ready to go, and that I can bring it into the mural board as and when I need to. And that's all based and described within the facilitator's guide. So we would like you to undertake, the same preparation for this virtual workshop that we'll be taking you through. So imagine that you're sort of preparing to facilitate a real team during that workshop series. So we'd like you to go ahead and read the facilitator's guide. Again, be reading it as if you were actually getting ready to facilitate yourself. We want you to understand what the steps are. We want you to look at the mural board, take a look at the mural board and be cross-referencing that with the facilitator's guide. We actually want you to go ahead and practice the wording that introduces each of the steps and each of the parts of those steps as well. And that's included in the mural board outline. And if you're unsure how to access that, we'll make sure that you have that information to hand. So that And the way that we typically approach that is that we prepare when we practice introducing the steps we'll cover in the next workshop that's coming up. So for you, that will be workshop 1. We'll let you know which steps we hope to get through during workshop 1. We'd like you to practice the wording for those steps. And then similarly for workshop 2, we'll cover the remainder of the steps in the tool itself. Now, we're not actually going to ask you to deliver those instructions. So, do want to let you know, just in case that's disappointing to you, but we still want you to prepare and to really be sort of listening as myself or one of my colleagues goes through those instructions, to be listening and to see if, the script you have in your head aligns with exactly what we say. And it should do, because again, the wording really matters there. So that first piece of preparation then really is around just familiarizing yourself with the mural board, familiarizing yourself with the facilitator's guide, being ready to sort of deliver the tool to any team that you might be delivering it to. The second part of things then is actually being familiar with the strategy that you're going to be supporting, the focus of the team that you're going to be supporting through that situation analysis. As I mentioned, for this training, we're going to be using a case study. In this case, the case study is the Eastern Arc Mountains in Tanzania and southern Kenya. This is a real place. It is not a place where the Nature Conservancy has a dedicated strategy. So this is not a real Africa region strategy, but we thought it would be a good basis for a good test case to demonstrate the attributes of the mural board. We did check with our Africa team before we did this study. So generally, as we're looking to gather that information about the strategy, the way we do that is through a scoping call. We're not going to have a mock scoping call for you. We provide information on the Eastern Arc Mountains. It's a handout that we expect you to have read. But typically you'll begin with that scoping call. And that scoping call, is designed to help you get ready, understand the strategy, understand some of the key logistics that you're going to need to know, and a detailed description of what to cover in the scoping call is provided with the module guidance. I'm not going to try and cover all of those details today, but as you can imagine, it gives you a general sense of the strategy. It gives you an understanding of some of the logistical constraints that you need to think about, number of participants, time zones, when they'd like to schedule, how many workshops, etc. All of that's gathered during the scoping call. Also during the scoping call, we think about and prepare for some specific inputs to the mural board itself. And for this training, we're going to focus in on those specific inputs because that is the pre-work that we would like you to have done, because we'll be actually calling upon that as we get into the workshop where we go through this case study. Before I get there, though, I did just want to quickly touch on the case study. As I mentioned, we have a handout where there's detailed information about this, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a flavor, hopefully whet your appetite. So the Eastern Arc Mountains, as I mentioned, they're a real place. They're a global biodiversity hotspot, and that's due to the high proportion of endemic species in the Eastern Arc Mountains. These are species found nowhere else on the face of this earth. So this is an ancient mountain chain, an ancient run of volcanoes that extends down the coast of Tanzania from Mount Kilimanjaro. They've been isolated for hundreds of millions of years, which is why so many species found there are found nowhere else. They include species like this beautiful chameleon on one side of your screen, and the three-horned chameleon, Kinyongia deramensis, again found nowhere else in the world. About 95% of the forest cover, sadly, on the Eastern Arc Mountains has been lost. Much of that was lost during colonial era as tea was grown in the mountains. More recently, continued forest loss has occurred as a result of expansion of local agriculture. So all of those details are described in the case study documentation, and that will be the resource that you will use to then think about the pre-work that I'm going to be getting into in the next slide here. So in terms of that specific work, we want you to have prepared for sort of 3 topics, 2 of which we'll actually bring into the mural board itself. So the first is we want you to have some sense of the likely primary interest of the team before you start. Now, if the 10 primary interest isn't familiar to you, it will be once you've read the facilitator's guide and once you've taken a look at the mural board. So some of the instructions I'm about to provide are going to make more sense if they're not familiar when you look at those resources. But in general, a primary interest is the core issue, the thing that team cares about, the problem that they are looking to solve in a particular point in space and in time. That is our primary interest. It is the focus, it is at the center of our situation analysis. So as we prepare to actually take a team through developing the situation analysis, you're using the mural board or in an in-person setting, we actually do some thinking on the primary interest before we sit down with the team based on the scoping call. And you'll see why that's important as you look through the instructions for the steps that relate to the primary interest. Step 1 in the mural board. So we would like you to have done that yourselves, jotted down some ideas on a piece of paper, have those to hand as we go through the workshop. The next thing we do, which is hard to describe if you've never seen a situation analysis, but if you think about a situation analysis, it's a schematic, it's a model that explains how, what are the drivers and the consequences of that primary interest, of the thing we care about, the problem we're looking to solve. And we build this model like a tree. We have main branches that stem away from that primary interest. On the left side of the board are the drivers, the causes of that, the challenge we're looking to solve. On the right side are the consequences, what is happening or what is, stemming from the problem that we're looking to solve. And so when we draw that tree, we draw it like an oak tree or a big tree in an open pasture. It has main branches that stem off that relate to key thematic areas of content. We have found that it is really helpful to have thought about sort of what are the starts of those key branches. What are the groupings that are likely to form the architecture of our situation analysis before we actually go through the mural board itself. So again, detailed instructions are provided on how to do this in the facilitator's guide. When you look at the mural board, you'll see some examples that will help with this. We would like you to have thought about this, to have jotted down some ideas and have those to hand when you come to that first workshop as we go through this case study. The last thing that we do, which we are not going to ask you to do, is that we actually ask the team if they would like us to have some pre-built content ready to go and that we can drop into the situation analysis module as it's being developed. Now, the reason for that is that there's a lot of commonalities in the work we undertake across the Conservancy and the kinds of drivers and consequences of the problems we're looking to solve. So, for example, if you look at rivers and streams across much of the world, a challenge that rivers and streams face is dams and culverts that block the flow of water and the movement of aquatic species upstream and downstream. Dams and culverts are common. The drivers, the why of dams and culverts and the problems they cause are common across most freshwater systems. And what teams have asked is, they've said, we feel like we're sort of reinventing the wheel. We're describing, a context here that is well understood. If we had that already sort of ready to go, we could save ourselves a lot of time and be able to focus in on the specific context within which we're working. So based on that feedback, we have tested with teams having some of that sort of standard content ready to go. But we only bring that in if the team has already agreed they would like to do that. So we ask the team lead during the scoping call if they'd like us to do that, and then we make sure we have relevant content to hand, if the answer is yes, in the mural board. So that's something that we do. We're not going to ask you to do that this time, but you'll see that described in the facilitator's guide, and I wanted to emphasize that today. So let me end then with just summarizing the pre-work that we would like you to do. And we really are asking you to have this work done in preparation for that first workshop where we sit down together with the case study. And this isn't busy work. Again, this is exactly the preparation that you will do as a facilitator when you take a team through the module itself. We want you to have read the facilitator's guide and read it as a facilitator, not sort of as a, at midnight with a glass of wine kind of read. We want you to have watched the introductory video that we provide to participants that covers the introduction to the mural approach. We want you to have looked at the mural board. We want you to have practiced that wording for the steps and the parts of the steps that we will cover in the first workshop. So practice that before the first workshop, and then practice the subsequent steps before the second workshop. We want you to have read the case study and to have written down that potential primary interest, your best guess, best idea about what that will be, and to have identified the nodes, those key sort of themes that will define the branches of the situation analysis itself. And my guess is that this will take you about an hour and a half to complete this preparation. It really will set you up to have a good experience during the workshop. So we think it's time well spent. So with that, I will wrap this presentation now. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing you during the first workshop here.